Hey, how's it going? It's Josh Fairbairn from MorphoMFG. Here's another episode of Breaking It Down. So our first thing that we're going to take a look at is a post on Reddit in the subreddit of Entrepreneur. I'm just going to start with, why do they even have MLM here? That is whack. 1.1 million members of the subreddit. To each their own, but for me, MLM has got to go. All right, so here's a question. How do you decide on a manufacturer? Hi all, it's my first attempt at being an entrepreneur. I've designed some actual unique clothing, but need a manufacturer. Reached out to 25 manufacturers on Alibaba, but I'm now in the process of trying to figure out who to go with. Obviously, I understand that price will play a big part in the decision-making process, but do you look for anything else? I'm still waiting on some of them to get back to me as I have a few questions. In the meantime, I thought I'd ask the question. All right, so let's start with what I think is obvious. If your sole reach out is Alibaba, you're in bad shape already. Alibaba, to me, is nothing more than a research tool, right? Get on Alibaba, find out what people are doing. Research, take the wide spectrum of your 25 manufacturers and come up with an average price. Doing your research on what people charge, there's going to be a crazy range. But if you take 25 as a pretty decent sample size, you find out the average cost, then you know what this thing should cost, right? If you want to take this unique item of clothing, if you want to take it a step further, you can do more research. Find out what raw material costs. Find out what, I don't know what your clothing is, but if it's a jacket, find out, what kind of zipper are you using? Is it a YKK, best in line, best in class zipper? Are you okay with something cheaper? Are you making a budget jacket, right? What are you doing? You need to know all of those things. You've obviously not provided a lot of information, but you got to know all of the different components and kind of what they cost. And then use that to balance across the range of prices you're receiving back. You say, obviously, I understand that price will play a big part in the decision-making process. Wrong. You're a startup. My first attempt at being an entrepreneur. Price should be, in my opinion, a lot of people disagree, but in my opinion, they don't know what they're talking about. Price should be close to the bottom of your priorities. If you take a range, if you take 25, you're going to find what some people will charge too much. Other people will charge too little in an attempt to get your order and then give you shit service, right? The most important thing should always be quality, right? Unless you're literally trying to make something very cheap for that type of demographic, then sure, price. And there are markets where price is the number one. I'm not interested in that, right? I don't make garbage. We don't ship garbage. We don't want to do that. And to be frank, China's not good at doing the garbage stuff anymore. Right? Back in the day, you wanted cheap, you wanted quantity over quality. China was a place to go. It's 2022. Felt weird saying that. It's 2022, right? Nobody in China is interested in that anymore. It's the second biggest economy in the world. They're making products for Apple, every big brand you can think of. The highest quality in the world, right? You gotta reformat your thinking on what you're dealing with. Now, taking a step back, you come up with your average price, then how do you find the right ones? Not Alibaba. And that can make it more difficult, right? Actually, I won't say not Alibaba, but Alibaba shouldn't be your be-all and end-all. The reality is that most of the manufacturers on Alibaba are nothing more than a trading company. So they've hired a handful of English-speaking staff. They've paid their yearly membership dues to Alibaba. They have an office in the PRD, probably, the Pearl River Delta, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Dongguan. And they farm out your work, probably to their cousin, probably to a friend they grew up with, probably to someone in the area. It's never based on quality. Well, not never, but 1% is based on quality, right? They're just trying to get it done. They're trying to secure your order and take their percentage and then farm the work out. That works for some people. It certainly doesn't work for me because you're getting subpar quality and you're overpaying. As cheesy as it has become to say you need to go to the source, that's not going to happen, right? When you're making clothes, going to the source means what? If you're making a silk clothing item, are you going to the worms? Right? You're not, right? Going to the source doesn't make sense. A better way of thinking about this is going and cutting out as many hands as you can. Not using a trading company who's just processing your order, copy pasting emails, providing no value, really doing nothing except taking your money. Finding a company that can actually listen and understand your requests is as important as it gets. Obviously, I'm biased and I'm not going to say go to MorphoMFG even though we're the best. Find someone like us, right? Find someone who is a great communicator. Find someone who understands these processes and isn't just copy and pasting emails, right? Do all your research. Alibaba is a great tool for research. Find out everything you need to know about your product and then work with some specialists. Let's just see if there's anything here that's interesting. Many of them have reviews. Dogecoin, not a lot going on down here. All right, let's see this. From Guangdong, let's break this down. Greetings from Guangdong, China. Basically, we want to maintain the highest possible quality at the lowest possible price. You'll need boots on the ground in China. That's true. COVID makes that hard. You know, there's ways to have boots by proxy, right? By working with people that know what they're doing. If you don't want to have to take trips to China 12 times a year, if you don't want to have Western eye on the ground, if you want to send money across the globe without stressing, if you want to get the best real prices. Yeah, there's a lot to be said in this. I think there's a lot of good points here. This guy, how about I quote your prices too? We're going to pass. At the end of the day, use Alibaba as a research tool, figure out what you think it should cost, the fair price, and then work with actual experts as close to the source as possible without going to the worms. Next question. Product idea, but don't know where to get a 3D model and prototype done. Hey guys, as the title said, I believe I have a pretty big product idea. Of course you do. For the smoking industry, cannabis. Wonder what influenced you. And it seems as it begins to legalize in more and more states that this gives the product a bigger and bigger chance of success. I gotta pause. That is the most entrepreneur line ever. So many people smoke weed, so of course this will be a success. Whack! That just doesn't make sense, right? So many people have cars, so of course they want my car-related product. So many people have houses, so right? It doesn't make sense. It's not logical. Just because there is a market doesn't mean they want yours. Doesn't mean you have a greater chance of success. It means you probably have more people to compete with, and you need to do a better product to even have a chance. But moving on. I've done all the sketching I need. I just need to get the actual dimensions and measurements done, and then I'll be good for a prototype. I'd love to see the sketch, right? People are too paranoid about people stealing their ideas. 1 in a million, 1 in 1,000 ideas are stealable because they're so magnificent. They're so incredible. But the majority of ideas are just that. They're ideas that have no proof that they're success, no proof that anyone in the world wants them, right? They're just ideas. Yet people are still afraid because they think they'll steal them. It's not the route I'd go. My problem is that I can't seem to find anyone that I feel I can trust anyone like I can trust for the 3D modeling and prototype creation. I was learning Blender, but feel like that will take too long, and I'd rather have it done properly the first time. Great attitude. What do you guys suggest? Any sites you've used and been satisfied with? Where do I even begin on getting a prototype made? So your sketch is not going to get anything manufactured, right? The reality is that you do need a finished 3D model. Learning Blender yourself, if you want to be an engineer, do it. If you don't, if you want to be an entrepreneur, pay someone else to do it. Use Upwork. Create an account on Upwork. Do 3 hours of YouTubing on how to use it properly. Do 5 hours of searching around, understanding the UX, understanding the platform. Write out a really proper, detailed description of what you're looking for and post your job on Upwork. If you do a good job, you'll have at least 20 people apply. Once again, as I mentioned earlier in the video, 20 will create a wide spectrum. Some people will charge too much. Some people will charge too little and they'll be shit. Use the middle as your starting point. Bring it down to 5, shortlist 5 potential candidates. Interview them one by one and hire the one that feels right. On to question number 3. Chinese supplier pricing product versus stealing it. Here we go. I've read in places on this and other subs that people have to be careful with Chinese suppliers. First of all, it's just a little bit racist. You should be careful with any suppliers. This is business. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Anyone who thinks that they can just oh yeah, here's my product, here's everything, here's a bunch of money. Like, are you shitting me? Right? You have to use your brain. Oftentimes they will steal your product and you'll end up with a few cheaper listings on Amazon before you even receive your shipment. You actually scratch that. Yes, if you're stupid, right? If you don't do things the right way. If you want to be creating your own unique, creative product, don't work with one supplier. Break it down. So for Morpho, we call it component control method. Individualize all of the components, spread it out, and use a manufacturer to create each of the components. Then work with a company that can help you to assemble all of the components, to run quality control, and make sure that everything's good before shipping. That way, all the manufacturers, all the suppliers involved in your supply chain don't really know what they're doing. They don't know what the big picture is, and your product's going to be safe. I asked a few suppliers for quotes and sent samples of what they would look like. They were playing cards, but I replaced the text with sample text, and I gave them quantities needed. That's actually a great idea, right? With an idea like playing cards, CCM, component control method, doesn't really work, right? How many things, it's all paper, right? You could get your paper cut, you could do printing at another source, you could do the box, like the playing card box, and then you could shrink wrap the packaging at the end, right? So you could potentially use 4, but that would end up costing more, right? Because of all of the logistics between each of the suppliers. The reality is probably using a playing card factory is the best option, right? They're familiar, their costs are down. I just think, honestly, economies of scale, right? It's probably the best option. But you always want to give as little as possible till the very last minute. So replacing your text with sample text, lorem ipsum, right? Taking some precautions, I still think is great. Telling them the quantities, and then at the last minute, right before production, give them what they need. The suppliers are asking me to send the full design before they let me know the estimate. Does this sound normal to anyone? It sounds shady to me, but I may be missing something. No, it's not sketchy. You know, ink costs money, right? If you put sample text on a card, it's going to be cheaper than if you have a full-fledged picture with 6 different colors. There's nothing sketchy about that, honestly. I actually am proud of that factory for not blowing smoke up your ass and telling you a random price. By telling you that they need the full design, then you can actually trust the price they give you. I wouldn't be too worried about it. You're not reinventing the wheel. It sounds like you're coming up with a niche design for playing cards. They're not going to copy you. When your idea takes off and you're selling 1 million packs a year, then worry. But it doesn't matter. Someone else will do it anyways. People worry too much about people copying their business. No one wants to copy a business that's worth $0. Be thorough, nothing wrong with being careful, but at the end of the day, you got to give the details to get a quote. There we go, breaking it down for today. Cheers.